one is Peter, right?
The last one.
Her dad's,
I don't know, it's June.
Mike Carvella's on the phone.
Oh, great, thanks, Michael. And did you get the
when
resumes?
he was starting to do it.
I haven't been checked. I was at an 11 o'clock appointment.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I missed the last interviewee.
He wrote,
Yeah, I'm sorry, because she was really good.
like, when he was town supervisor, he wrote,
I'm sure he
845 consecutive
just the enthusiasm that she brought to the table.
about when, you know, now he's switched to
I assume people reverse the.
It's always updating about COVID.
Experience with large scale outdoor events.
Can we get started?
A lot of the things she was saying too, so.
Yeah. I actually think it's a
Yes.
plus. In that. we can stay the problem.
She has that sense of-
It doesn't have to be large.
Yeah, no, it doesn't, but I mean, it's just, you know.
That's what increases the versus I'm just a sort of.
No.
I don't know.
No, we don't.
I like the fact she put in concessions. Put the concessions.
Okay, I guess we're gonna call the meeting to order. Peter, you're there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm just gonna, call the roll. You just say here or whatever. Catherine Barber,
Here.
Susan Cleary,
Here.
Mary Griffin, Scott Palladino.
Yeah.
Jim Sullivan, is out on medical leave, so, I'm not sure when he's gonna be back, so we'll see. Joyce Shanker's not with us. Maston is here.
Here.
John Regan,
Here.
Mike Avella on the phone.
Here.
And Brad is
Here.
here. Okay. So the first order of business is the approval of the minutes from the board meeting in February. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion is carried. Sorry, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion is carried. The chairperson's report, that's me. So I really don't have much to say because you all, you know, we've just been interviewing everyone. But I just did want to mention some of the work that DRI Waterstone has done. We've been working with them since January, actually. And they did a job summary, and they did, you know, a lot of work for us on this, and you can see some of that in the questions and things that were in with the resumes. So they received over 60 resumes. They interviewed 19 people. They presented 12 of those people to the search committee. We chose, out of that 12, we chose 6 people to interview, and then we whittled that down to the 3 that you all saw today. So, you know, honestly, I don't think we could have done this without DRI. I know you guys did it last time, but it really was helpful, wouldn't you say, Brett, having
Yes,
a firm out there, vetting the people and giving their advice about things and what questions we should ask and directing us on the qualities that we needed to look for in candidates. So they've been super helpful.
Just all the legwork that, you know, Peter did last time that, you know, really, I think complicated it when we were searching for a replacement for Peter.
Yeah. No, so it's been great. So, when we go into executive session at the end of the meeting, I'd like to have more of a discussion about the candidates, and, I mean, maybe we can even reach agreement on, you know, which candidate we want to recommend. So any questions about anything with the search or any of that?
Who was on the search committee?
Brad, myself, John,
And Catherine.
and Catherine. So that's that.
Don't blame us.
Yeah.
You say don't blame or do blame?
Do blame. So the financial report, Matthew?
Sure. Does everybody have a copy of the handout that was sent?
Yes.
It is the beginning of the new fiscal year. April was our first month of the new year. It was pretty busy. The variances really are on the ticket sales side. We did a little better than we had budgeted, and rental income was up a little higher than we had budgeted. Where the little loss against our budget occurred was mainly in the artist fees. We had budgeted 45 for the month, but the artists that we booked, it was a little higher than we had originally thought, so that came in at 53. Other than that, our payables are on track, our receivables are on track. Our New York State appropriation, we got confirmation that we are in the budget for the 220, and just this week I was given permission to voucher in for that total, so that money should be arriving. Usually it usually happens within 2 weeks.
Do we get it for the whole year, or do we get it
In the
quarterly?
past, we were getting it in pieces. The last 2 years, we've been able to get the whole thing and just roll it into a T-bill
Oh, good.
if we have the cash flow situation available to us, which I think we do at this point. Other than that, our
Matthew,
system
who's
fees
the
are-
budget analyst that you deal with?
It depends. Right now, it changed. I can give you that information
Okay.
later. It escapes me right now.
Okay.
They've been very, very helpful. It's fascinating to see over my tenure how the relationship between the budget and the egg has changed. It's much better.
Well, good. It can depend on the people.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic actually at this point. We just have sent our engagement letter in for UHY to do our annual audit. We're doing some of the field work now. That should be completed by the end of June. And this is our last year with UHY. So if anyone has any suggestions on firms that we should be sending the RFP to, please shoot me an email and let me know.
I suggested BST, just because I know they have a lot of background in not-for-profit auditing.
And they've worked with us in the past, but
You
it's
know
been
if you
quite a
know
while.
anybody or,
It's been quite a while. Other than that, we mentioned payables and receivables. I think I'm good. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
Yeah, are there any red flags that you're worried about?
Not at this point. It's the beginning of the fiscal year, so everything looks good at this point, knock on wood.
yeah, I saw some of the performances that didn't get very good attendance. What's on a winter's night? I don't know.
That was a folk festival
Oh.
with
Damn.
John Gorka and, who was it, Lucy Kaplansky, Peter?
Yes.
Yeah. And we did purchase a new T-bill, and that matures in August, and at that point we'll take a recommendation if we want to roll it or increase the size of a new bill purchase.
You're okay, the egg can do that on their own without,
We go through tax and finance.
oh, I was gonna say, yeah, okay. Any questions anybody has?
You know, we are talking about you're gonna ask for a report from the, security?
Yes, I am. But first I have to give a motion to approve the financial
Just one
report.
question for
Okay.
Matthew on that.
Okay.
So that's gonna cost us some money if we hire that outside
Yeah.
company, Guidepost.
That's why we only had the T-bill purchased through August, and I'm looking at the flow being augmented by the New York State appropriation coming out.
Okay, so we can afford it if we need.
Well, it
If we
depends
could
on
go-
how much it is, but yeah.
If we go that direction, yeah. I mean,
Yeah. We should have some money.
We did have a good conversation with them. It sounds like, they maybe don't need to spend all the money they thought. Will,
Mhm.
hopefully come in a little under what their estimate was, but, yeah, so we're not gonna break the bank if we,
Not yet.
okay, good.
Any other questions about the financials? Anybody? Okay. I need a motion to approve the financial report as submitted.
So moved?
Second? Kathy? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The next item is the security report. Brad?
Peter, I might need your help on this, but we had a
Here.
great, good discussion on the phone with Guidepost. Clearly, they have, great experience, and whereas I was initially concerned that, they were only familiar with larger venues and maybe, you know, didn't have the experience to do a venue like this, they actually impressed us quite a bit, I think. And I forget who else was on that call, but Master, would you agree that?
I would agree, yeah.
Yeah.
Seen a lot of, certainly a lot of experience, and I think they had both sides, you know.
Yeah. And-
Larger venues.
And we talked about how, you know, there are a lot of constraints with this building, which is part of a larger complex. It's not like a standalone theater where you're gonna have, you know, fire exits on all four sides and easy access by emergency personnel and all of those things, in coordination with state police, and which, you know, in a big event could involve coordination with Albany PD and Albany Fire and, you know, Mohawk Ambulance and all of those things. They really seemed to, you know, bring a lot of experience, and they would assign somebody who, you know, would be, you know, overseeing the work. So
Yeah.
I would recommend that we move forward on hiring them. And you know, my other fear is that they're going to have some recommendations for us that are going to cost money. Well, luckily we're getting close, I think, to hiring a new executive director who is going to have to think about how we, you know, get more money to do some of those things that.
And I think we decided to wait till the new executive director is on board till we actually formally hire them. Is that what do you guys think?
We thought that would be a good
Yeah,
idea,
I think
but,
so.
you know, again, I think we're close, and, you know, would want them to be the new executive director, and obviously the rest of the staff to be working directly with Guidepost, right out of the gate.
So we don't really have to do anything right now, right?
I don't think so, unless
Okay.
anybody has questions, or, Bill, I know this is, you know, since it's about operations, I know you have concerns, and you were on the call too, right?
Yeah, you know, I got a good read from them. Again, I remember saying to them, what you'll see when you come here is probably the large-scale version of the small venue. Our performance spaces are small. Where we integrate into the rest of this complex, this becomes a large venue. And even just the benefit of putting the trained eye on the same space, they will see things that we are operating with, perhaps taking for granted, maybe even missing, even though for years we're trying to catch everything. So day one, we'll come out with some conversation, some discussion that will help us that day until, you know, such time as maybe the process is completed and we've got a full-on report from them.
Yeah.
And they do talk about phasing it in. They know they're gonna give us things that we won't be ready to pay for right away. And the impression I got is they're going to say to us, do this first. You can afford it, and it's a big one. Back off on this one, but that's your short-term, you know, recommendation and plan for the next. And I'm real interested, what happens in the performance halls, even though I know they'll come up with some new things, it's fairly standard industry practice. I'm anxious to see what they say to us once they get below the level that we're on right now, once they see how we integrate into the public spaces, the spaces that are shared with the Convention Expo Center, once they get to the loading dock level and see where shipping receiving ties into the spaces that we invite public into. Yeah, there's a lot of benefit there.
Anybody else? Okay, well, I don't think we need a motion or anything for this right now, but obviously we'll be talking about it. And speaking of that, please make sure you note that the next board meeting is September 20th. But you should already have gotten an email from Peter about that, but just so people know. Mike, did you hear that? September 20th.
Is there a chance we might need to do a special?
Yes, and there is a chance we might need to do a special meeting. And I just want to repeat again that we really need people to come in person, so hopefully people can do that next time around. Okay,
Yeah,
the next.
The law did change after COVID. It now requires in-person attendance, and you can't be counted towards quorum if you're not here, and you know, so your vote won't count if you're not here. So.
Right. I really hope that we'll have 2 more board members by the September meeting. I'm working on it. The next item is the Personnel Committee report. Sue?
Great, thank you. So Catherine McClellan has been hired. I think everybody got that email that she's been on board. She started on April 27th, so she's been here about a month. since 2015 as a per diem, so she's familiar with the facility. Her salary is $32 an hour, and she's guaranteed 40 hours overtime after 40 hours. I had a nice conversation with Bill yesterday about how she's working out and very well. She is cross-trained in a number of operations. She is studying for her ETCP, which is the Entertainment Technician Certification Program. I did look it up and do a little reading about it. It seems like it is the certification that you want to have in this industry now as
Is that becoming a more
operations.
recognized certification?
Absolutely. About 30 years ago now, almost, when it first came on board, and the objective was that this industry was not regulated like construction is regulated.
But a lot of safety
The
issues.
consequence was
right?
safety and liability. And it not only brings the certification, there's a recertification once you're involved. They hit all the technical disciplines that are of the major concern, electrical, and in the carpentry aspect of rigging and flying, the tons that you see on stage. The recertification keeps everybody current and compliant. The insurers like it for obvious reasons. I like it because it shows the individual is serious about their craft. That's the person you bring forward.
So are you starting to think about making that a minimum qualification for people
Absolutely.
over a certain
I would
level?
like to see it every time you do a full-time hire. It's not expensive to do. It's not expensive to recertify. It pays dividend everywhere. I'd love to be able to say that the house is an ETCP house. A lot of the unions, and it's a heavily unionized industry, jumped on board. All the big major cities that can afford to do it. When they started, Toronto, which is a big theatrical city, they jumped on board right away. I think it was 48 or 60 members instantly in both crafts, the electrical and in the rigging. Suddenly Toronto's IATSE local, the stagehands union, was a driving force behind the success right out of the gate for ETCP. New York has it, all the West Coast major cities, Chicago. It's tougher in the secondary markets because you've got to invest, and it's not always there. So when you see somebody, and Catherine picked that up on her own, and that was kind of a deal breaker for me. Up in the break room one day, I put my eyes over her shoulder, and she's studying something, and she's constantly studying up there. She's looking at something that does not have anything to do with putting a show on the stage. She's looking at deeper craft skills. And I said to her, "Is that, are you studying for your TCP?" She smiled, she said, "Yes." And I said, "All right, I get it, I love it. Health safety lead, but education and certification in this industry, when I started it, you didn't see as much of it. And it wasn't as good an environment, it wasn't as safe an environment. And now you see it everywhere, and it makes a difference. It makes a big difference. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, good. Anything else, sir? Okay, any questions about the personnel report? Okay. Next item is the executive director's report. Peter?
I will forego my spoken report. I know you've all been there for a long time, and you need to get into executive session, but I did send along the facility activity report, and certainly open to any questions on that. Otherwise, continue to just plan for the coming months, getting shows in place, which I'm sure you're seeing the announcements for. And yeah, again, I don't want to take a lot of time here. I don't have any news of any great import that isn't on the sheet. But if anyone has any questions, feel free.
Peter, I have one question. John Regan, how are you?
Hi, John.
I saw Park Playhouse was evicted from the workshop due to fire hazard violations.
Yes.
Are they allowed back? Do they have to pay any fines, or what's going on there?
Well, this isn't anything that we necessarily have a policy. It's a first for us. But what happened is they were noted. This is the third time in 4 months that they were cited, and it's just really it's dangerous, obviously, and we just couldn't trust them. And they're good people, they're very nice, they apologize, but, they clean up, and then, the next time the inspection, we get the same citations again. So really, we just said, it's really time for you to leave, and we just really can't risk this anymore. It's not fair to to the facility. These are fire hazards and safety hazards, and or our staff to be having to always be looking over their shoulder. So and they understand that. So at this point, they did quickly come and clean up the hazards again, but we asked them not to return. Although their belongings and so forth are still here as they look for a new place, but we expect that by June 1st that they will be, totally out there. They have 3 very large spaces that they rent from us, and again, we've tried for years. Really, they've been here off and on for many years, and it keeps coming back. And then with these 3 citations within 4 months, we really couldn't, we really couldn't trust them to continue to, clean up. Although they continue to promise to.
Was there a financial, or like you said, citations? Were we fined, or were we fined?
No, we were not. We didn't. There were no financial implications on that. Obviously, the financial implication is we won't be receiving the rent where we sublet those rooms to them. But in the past, we've always been able to fill that with a company that is looking for space to build sets. Our hope is once they're out, we can find someone new to take their place, and or if we decide to use it for our own purposes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, it's unfortunate, and we hated to do it, but it really was in the best interest of all, probably themselves as well, although they don't realize it.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
No?
Okay, great. And you know where to find me if you have any questions regarding anything. I'm always open to emails, calls, and texts.
Okay, great, thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Sure.
Okay, so if there's no other business, anyone has any other questions, we'll go into executive session. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
I move
Go
that
ahead.
we move into executive session to discuss a personnel matter about the hiring of an individual.
Great, second?
Second.
Aston, all approved, all agreed, say aye. Opposed? So moved. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, just give us a minute to take this off the recording. Kyle will be doing that. Let me let him know if he doesn't already.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You said something about putting out an email. I'm not sure that